Days ago, the U.S. attorney who's prosecuting the P. Diddy sex trafficking case filed the government's response to 3 motions filed by Sean Combs' very well-paid lawyers. Here's what Combs had claimed. Number 1, that the government leaked confidential material, aka the video of Diddy beating on his then-girlfriend Cassie. Number 2, that the names of the victims in the case should be revealed. And number 3, that a gag order should be imposed on the alleged victims and their attorneys. Now, I've covered all 3 of Combs' motions in various videos, but luckily for you, it will only take this one video to break down the prosecution's response, because the prosecution filed this huge 49-page memorandum responding to all 3 motions at one time. As always, I'm America's attorney. I'm your favorite YouTube lawyer. I've helped over 20,000 clients in the last 23 years, and today I'm breaking down the prosecution's rebuttal. Let's get started. We'll begin with the defense team's claim that someone in the government, probably the Department of Homeland Security, leaked confidential grand jury materials to the press, including a damaging video of Combs clearly beating the out of a woman. Oops, sorry. I meant to say allegedly assaulting a possible victim. In response to that memorandum, the government attorney wrote, as the defendant well knows, the intercontinental video publicly released by CNN was not in the possession of the government at the time of its publication and has never been a record obtained through grand jury process. The response then goes on to argue that the video should not be suppressed for several reasons. First, the prosecution team obtained the hotel video by downloading it from the CNN article, which is also how I got it. Therefore, they couldn't have been the source. Then the defense has yet to prove that the video was grand jury material or that a member of the prosecution team leaked the information. As the brief explains, the leaks could have come from any variety of sources that wouldn't be covered by the rule that prohibits the disclosure of grand jury information. The defense also requested more specifics on the alleged victims in the case, claiming that they needed this information now to prepare for the trial. First, the government's brief claims that Combs and his defense team simply don't need the names of the victims, at least not yet. According to the motion, the defendant has been more than sufficiently apprised of the nature of the charges he faces based on, inter alia, the 14-page speaking indictment, the government's written submissions and factual proffers at 2 separate bail hearings, and discovery produced to date totaling over 25 terabytes of data, including detailed search warrants laying out the details of the government's investigation and evidence. The brief also argues that considering the nature of Combs' charges, there is a danger to the victims and the possibility of witness bludgeoning. Oops, sorry. I mean tampering. Lastly, the defense requested a gag order on the victims and their attorneys in order to keep them from making statements to the media. The response accuses the defense of filing this motion in an attempt to force the disclosure of witness names. For this reason, as well as that the prosecution believes the gag order motion should be requested in Combs' civil cases, not in his criminal case, the prosecution is requesting that the judge deny the gag order motion. But of course, as you already know, the court entered a split the baby ruling on gagging the parties in the criminal case, which basically just said that the parties would be limited, like normal parties, to the normal rules of the normal criminal court system in normal cases. So let's real quick highlight the themes that the government used to support its position in its briefing. First of all, on grand jury confidentiality, the government argues that Rule 6E on grand jury secrecy wasn't breached since the video wasn't part of grand jury evidence. That's easy. On discovery and witness disclosure, the government emphasized that it believes enough information has been provided and that future disclosures would risk victim safety, but also that as the trial date gets closer, more and more information will be provided, including a very key document called an enterprise letter, which is the legal document in which the government explains its theory of how the illegal racketeering organization actually operated. And finally, on local criminal rules for gag orders, the government maintains that a gag order here would be unprecedented to the extent that it would go beyond the ruling that the court has already entered. Look, that's my summary of the positions, but don't take it from me. Actually do. But I mean, you don't have to, because here it is, word for word, the government's version of why Combs' lawyers filed the motions that they filed. Because the government has more than met its obligations to sufficiently advise the defendant of the acts of which he is accused, it is plain what this demand for a bill of particulars really is: a thinly veiled attempt to restrict the government's proof at this early stage of the case and to hijack the criminal proceeding so the defendant can respond to civil lawsuits. This demand should be squarely rejected, especially in light of the risk it poses to witness safety. Do you want to know how the judge will rule? So do I. There's no rule that governs how soon the judge must decide these issues, but you had better believe that this judge appreciates the public interest in this particular case and how so many eyes are on the system to see how well it works, even when it involves a washed-up global celebrity. The judge has no fixed deadline to rule. But what do you think the ruling should be? Do you agree with the prosecution or with the defense? Drop your pro se opinion down below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to lawyer up with America's Attorney and subscribe for more P. Diddy breakdowns as the case progresses. I'll see you. It is plain what? It is plain what we'll begin. Compliment myself. Lay an egg.